The transport shuttle docked with Pinnacle 7 station with a gentle thud that Hyunwoo barely felt. He pressed his face against the small window, watching the massive orbital academy spin slowly against the backdrop of stars. Somewhere in the cargo hold below, hidden in a specially modified container, Jimin waited. Hyunwoo's heart pounded. If station security found out he had smuggled his dog aboard in anything other than the proper documentation, they would both be sent back to Earth immediately. The paperwork had been tricky. Earth animals were not banned from Galactic Confederation facilities, but they were heavily restricted. Hyunwoo had registered Jimin as an emotional support companion, which was technically legal. The station administrator had approved it after 3 months of requests. Still, Hyunwoo knew most alien species would not understand. To them, animals were either food, dangerous wildlife, or tools. The concept of a pet, a friend, a family member with 4 legs and fur, was foreign to almost every species in the galaxy except humans. The shuttle doors opened with a hiss. Hyunwoo grabbed his bags and made his way through the docking tunnel. The station was enormous, far larger than any structure on Earth. Thousands of students from dozens of worlds studied here. The corridor walls displayed information in 15 different languages, including Korean and English. Holographic guides floated past, directing new arrivals to registration. Hyunwoo found the cargo bay and retrieved Jimin's container. When he opened it, the German shepherd bounded out, tail wagging furiously. Jimin licked Hyunwoo's face, and the young man laughed despite his nervousness. "Shh, boy, we need to stay calm," Hyunwoo whispered, clipping a leash to Jimin's collar. The dog sat obediently, tongue hanging out, brown eyes bright with curiosity. They made their way through the station. Alien students stopped and stared. A group of tall reptilian beings with scales that shimmered green and gold pointed at Jimin and spoke in clicking sounds. A floating jellyfish-like creature drifted closer, its translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent light. Jimin pressed against Hyunwoo's leg, uncertain but not aggressive. The dormitory wing was clean and modern. Hyunwoo's assigned room was small but comfortable. His roommate, another human named Borum, was already unpacking when they arrived. "You actually brought a dog?" Borum said, grinning. "I heard rumors, but I did not think it was real. My parents wanted me to bring our cat, but I told them it was impossible." "It was not easy," Hyunwoo admitted, "but I could not leave him behind. Jimin has been with me since I was 10 years old. He is family." Borum knelt and let Jimin sniff his hand. The dog's tail wagged and Borum scratched behind his ears. "He is beautiful." "What breed?" "German shepherd. They were bred for herding sheep, then became police and military dogs. Smart, loyal, protective." Over the next few days, Hyunwoo settled into academy life. The classes were challenging but fascinating. Xenobiology, quantum mechanics, galactic history, and diplomatic protocol filled his schedule. Jimin stayed in the dorm during classes, though Hyunwoo took him for walks around the station's observation decks during breaks. Other students grew curious. Some approached carefully, asking questions. Others kept their distance, viewing Jimin with suspicion or confusion. One student, a Saurian named Velthar, seemed particularly dismissive. Velthar was tall, nearly 7 feet, with emerald scales and intelligent yellow eyes. He came from a warrior culture, and his people had conquered 12 systems before joining the Confederation. He walked with the confidence of someone who had never been challenged. "That is your companion animal?" Velthar asked one afternoon in the common area. His voice was smooth but carried an edge of contempt. "It looks weak." Hyunwoo kept his voice steady. "Jimin is a dog. Dogs have been humanity's partners for over 40,000 years. Partners." Velthar's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "You mean slaves. Your species took a predator and broke it, made it dependent on you for food and shelter. This is not partnership. This is dominance." Several other students had gathered to listen. Krishna, an insectoid mantid with 4 arms and compound eyes, tilted her head. "My species also keeps animals, but they are controlled through neural implants." "How do you control yours?" "I do not control him," Hyunwoo said. "I train him." "There is a difference." Velthar laughed, a harsh sound. "Training is just another word for control. Your animal obeys because you punish it when it does not." Hyunwoo felt anger rise in his chest, but he forced it down. "That is not true. I have never punished Jimin. Dogs want to please their humans. They love us." "Love?" Velthar's eyes gleamed with amusement. You are projecting human emotions onto a simple creature. It obeys because you feed it. That is survival instinct, not love. Borum stepped forward. You do not understand dogs. They are different from other animals. All species claim their animals are special, Krishna said, though her tone was more curious than mocking. My people's biodrones are genetically engineered for perfection. They never disobey, never question, never fail. What makes your dog superior to that? Hyunwoo looked at Jimin, who sat calmly beside him, watching the gathered aliens with alert but not aggressive interest. How could he explain? How could he make them understand something that humans took for granted? Can I give a presentation? Hyunwoo asked suddenly. In xenobiology class, about dogs and domestication. Professor Zanti, a multi-limbed being who oversaw xenobiology studies, happened to be passing through the common area. She paused, her three eyes blinking in sequence. An interesting proposal. Earth domestication is not well studied in our curriculum. Very well. You may present next week. Hyunwoo spent the following days preparing. He gathered footage from Earth's history. Dogs pulling sleds across frozen tundra. Dogs guiding blind humans through crowded streets. Dogs sitting beside hospital beds providing comfort to sick children. Search and rescue dogs finding people buried in rubble. Police dogs protecting their handlers. Therapy dogs visiting nursing homes. And countless images of dogs simply being part of families, playing in yards, sleeping on couches, greeting their humans at the door with pure joy. The day of the presentation arrived. The classroom was full. Word had spread that the human was going to defend his broken predator. Even Velthar attended, sitting in the back row with his arms crossed. Hyunwoo began. He explained how wolves first approached human camps thousands of years ago. Not as enemies, but as curious visitors. How the relationship had been mutual from the start. Wolves who were less afraid ate the scraps humans left behind. Humans who tolerated wolves had early warning systems for danger. Over generations, the friendliest wolves had the most puppies. Humans protected and fed the ones who helped them hunt and guard their camps. This is called coevolution, Hyunwoo explained. Humans changed dogs, yes, but dogs also changed humans. Studies show that humans who live with dogs live longer, have lower stress, and are happier. We evolved together. He showed the footage. The classroom was silent as images played across the holographic display. Dogs doing incredible things. Dogs being heroic. Dogs being silly. Dogs being loving. When it ended, Velthar stood up. This proves nothing. These are tricks-trained behaviors. You have shown me a creature completely dependent on your species for survival. You call this partnership, but I see slavery. Your wolf ancestor was free. Your dog is a prisoner of its own genetics. The word stung because Hyunwoo had no response that would convince someone like Velthar. How do you prove love to someone who has never felt it? I think, Professor Zanti said quietly, that this discussion is more complex than either side admits. Perhaps we will revisit this topic later. But Hyunwoo knew the aliens did not understand, and he wondered if they ever would. Professor Zanti announced the companion species showcase 2 weeks after Hyunwoo's presentation. The notice appeared on every student's datapad. All students with companion animals were invited to demonstrate their species' approach to animal partnership. Participation was optional, but would count toward xenobiology grades. Hyunwoo knew this was Velthar's doing. The Saurian had been arguing with Professor Zanti in the hallways, insisting that Earth animals were inferior. The professor had apparently decided to let the evidence speak for itself. You do not have to do this, Borum said as they walked Jimin around the observation deck. Through the massive windows, Earth hung like a blue marble against the black. Velthar is trying to embarrass you. I know, Hyunwoo said. But maybe this is a chance to show them what Jimin can really do. The showcase was held in the station's largest lecture hall. Nearly 200 students attended. Hyunwoo stood backstage with Jimin, watching through a gap in the curtain as other species presented their animals. The Saurians went first. Velthar brought a creature that looked like a scaled raptor with 6 legs and a mouthful of razor teeth. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, all muscle and predator grace. Velthar carried a small device in his hand. This is a Kresh hunter, Velthar announced to the crowd, bred for combat and tracking. It obeys perfectly. He pressed a button on the device. The Kresh immediately sat. Another button made it stand. Another made it bare its teeth and snarl. The movements were instant, mechanical, precise. How does the device work? Someone asked. Pain compliance technology, Velthar said without shame. The device sends electrical signals to implants in the creature's nervous system. Disobedience causes discomfort. Obedience brings relief. It is simple and effective. Hyunwoo felt sick. Jimin leaned against his leg and he scratched the dog's ears gently. The mantids went next. Krishna brought what she called a biodrone. It barely looked alive. The creature's eyes were glassy and unfocused. It moved when she commanded it through a neural link, but there was no personality, no spark of individual thought. It was a living robot. Genetic engineering, Krishna explained proudly. We removed unnecessary instincts like fear and curiosity. It exists only to serve. Other species showed similar companions. A floating species brought a creature that responded to pheromone signals. An aquatic species displayed a fish-like animal controlled through sonic frequencies that caused it pain if it disobeyed. Every single demonstration involved control through fear, pain, genetic modification, or complete removal of free will. Then it was Hyunwoo's turn. He walked onto the stage with Jimin trotting beside him, unleashed. The dog's tail wagged as he took in the crowd. Several students gasped at seeing the dog off-leash. This is Jimin, Hyunwoo said, his voice echoing through the hall. He is a German Shepherd. I am going to show you what he can do, but I want to be clear about something first. I have no device, no implants, no pain compliance, no genetic modification, just trust and training. He started simple. Jimin, sit. Jimin sat, eyes focused on Hyunwoo. Down. Jimin lay down. Stay. Hyunwoo walked 20 feet away. Jimin remained motionless, though his tail swept the floor slightly. Hyunwoo waited 10 seconds, then 20, then 30. Finally, he called, Jimin, come. The dog sprang up and ran to him, sitting beside him automatically. The crowd murmured. It was impressive, but Velthar stood up in the audience. Party tricks. My creche can do all of that and more. The difference is that your dog chooses to obey because you have conditioned it through food rewards. It is still just advanced training, no different from what we do. Hyunwoo had expected this. Then let us test loyalty. Velthar's eyes gleamed. Agreed. I propose we use the combat simulation arena. We will create a scenario that tests true loyalty versus conditioning. Professor Zanti raised one of her limbs. That could be dangerous. Simulations are safe, Velthar said. We will use holographic threats only. No animal will be harmed. We will simply see which companion is truly loyal. The professor hesitated, then nodded. Very well, but I will design the test myself to ensure fairness. They moved to the combat simulation arena, a large circular room with holographic projectors. Professor Zanti programmed the scenario while students filled the observation gallery above. The test is simple, the professor announced. Each companion will be placed in a scenario where obeying their handler's commands will cause them discomfort through simulated environmental effects. However, they will clearly see an escape route that leads away from their handler. The question is, will they stay and endure discomfort out of loyalty, or will they choose self-preservation? Velthar went first. His creche entered the arena. Holographic flames appeared around it. Not real, but the heat sensors made the creature believe they were. Velthar commanded it to stay. The creche tried, but as the simulated heat increased, it bolted for the escape route, ignoring Velthar's commands. Even pain compliance could not override the survival instinct when faced with what the creature believed was death. The other species had similar results. The biodrone simply shut down when faced with conflicting programming. The pheromone-controlled creature fled immediately. One by one, every alien companion either malfunctioned, fled, or ignored their handler's commands when survival instinct kicked in. Then Jimin entered the arena. Hyunwoo stood at one end. Jimin sat beside him. Professor Zanti activated the simulation. Holographic fire surrounded them, growing hotter. The temperature rose, uncomfortable but not dangerous. The escape route glowed clearly on the opposite side. Jimin, stay, Hyunwoo commanded. The dog whined softly. His ears went back. He looked at the escape route, then back at Hyunwoo. The temperature increased. Jimin shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. But he stayed. 30 seconds passed. The simulated flames grew higher. Jimin whined again, louder this time. His body trembled. But his eyes never left Hyunwoo's face. 60 seconds. The arena was genuinely hot now, enough that sweat dripped down Hyunwoo's face. Jimin panted heavily, but he remained sitting. Jimin, come, Hyunwoo finally said, and the dog immediately ran to him. Hyunwoo knelt and hugged him tightly. Good boy. Such a good boy. The observation gallery was silent. Professor Zanti ended the simulation, and the temperature returned to normal. Belthar's voice cut through the quiet. Programming. Nothing more. You have simply conditioned it better than we condition ours. But his voice lacked its usual confidence. Hyunwoo could see doubt in the Saurian's eyes. Others in the crowd were murmuring, arguing with each other. Before anyone could respond, emergency alarms shrieked through the station. Red lights flashed. Professor Zanti's datapad lit up with urgent messages. Her voice was tense. All students remain calm. We have a containment breach in the xenobiology research labs. Security is responding. Everyone must evacuate to designated safe zones immediately. The crowd erupted into chaos. Students pushed toward the exits. Hyunwoo grabbed Jimin's collar, trying to keep him close in the crush of bodies. What escaped? Someone shouted. Professor Zanti's 3 eyes were wide with fear. Shard Wraith, a specimen from the crystalline sectors. Extremely dangerous. Everyone must evacuate now. Hyunwoo had read about Shard Wraiths in his studies. They came from a death world where silicon-based life had evolved into apex predators. They could phase through certain materials and were highly aggressive. One Shard Wraith had killed 30 soldiers before being captured for study, and now one was loose on the station. Hyunwoo ran with the crowd, Jimin at his side. The showcase was forgotten. The debate about loyalty and love and training did not matter anymore. Survival was all that mattered now. But Hyunwoo did not know that very soon. Jimin would prove exactly what loyalty meant in a way that no alien could dismiss or deny. The emergency sirens wailed through every corridor of Pinnacle 7. Hyunwoo ran with the panicking crowd, Jimin keeping pace beside him despite the chaos. Students of a dozen species pushed and shoved, trying to reach the designated safe zones. Some flew, some crawled on multiple legs, some slithered. It was absolute pandemonium. Hyunwoo. Borum's voice cut through the noise. Hyunwoo turned and saw his roommate pushing through the crowd toward him. We need to get to Section C. The dormitory wing has reinforced doors. They ran together following the illuminated emergency path on the walls. Behind them, somewhere in the station, the Shard Wraith hunted. Hyunwoo had studied the creature in his xenobiology class just last week. The Shard Wraith came from a world where silicon-based life had evolved under extreme conditions. Its body was made of a crystalline structure harder than diamond. It could refract light to become nearly invisible, and phase through certain molecular structures like some metals and plastics. Worst of all, it was intelligent enough to hunt strategically. The research lab had kept it sedated and contained in a quantum-locked chamber. Something had clearly gone wrong. A security officer, a human woman named Yuna who worked in the medical bay, sprinted past them going the opposite direction. She carried a plasma rifle and wore full tactical armor. Students, keep moving. Do not stop for anything. They reached an intersection where the corridor split in 3 directions. Emergency signs pointed left toward the dormitories, but a blast door was already closing, sealing that section. Dozens of students were trapped on the wrong side, pounding on the metal. Damn it, Borum cursed. We need another route. Hyunwoo checked his datapad. The station's emergency map showed an alternate path through the study rooms. This way, through the academic wing. They diverted right, Jimin's claws clicking on the metal floor. The crowds had thinned here as most students had already evacuated. The corridor was eerily quiet except for the distant sirens and their own footsteps. They passed empty classrooms with their doors wide open. Papers and datapads were scattered everywhere, abandoned when the alarm sounded. Through the windows, Hyunwoo could see Earth hanging in space, so peaceful and far away. Jimin suddenly stopped. His ears pricked forward, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. What is it, boy? Hyunwoo whispered. The dog stared at a side corridor branching off to their left. The lights there were flickering, and a strange sound echoed from the darkness. It was like glass chimes, but wrong somehow, discordant and sharp. We should go, Borum said quietly. That does not sound good. They hurried forward, but Jimin kept looking back, his hackles raised. They were almost to the study room section when they heard voices. Young voices, frightened and calling for help. Hyunwoo stopped. Did you hear that? Keep moving, Borum urged. Security will find them. But Hyunwoo was already running toward the sound. Jimin bolted ahead of him. They found a sealed study room with transparent walls. Inside were 3 students, Velthar and 2 younger aliens that Hyunwoo did not recognize. One looked like a small furry mammal with large eyes. The other was a being made of what appeared to be living water held together by a containment suit. Velthar's face, usually so confident and mocking, was tight with fear. He pounded on the door. "The lock is jammed. We cannot override it." "Step back," Hyunwoo said. He examined the control panel. It was fried, circuits melted. Something damaged the electronics. "I can try to manually release it, but it will take time." "We do not have time," Velthar said, and Hyunwoo heard real terror in the Saurian's voice. "It is coming." "What is coming?" "The Shard Wraith. It is hunting in this section. We saw it kill a security officer 3 corridors away." Borum grabbed Hyunwoo's arm. "We need to leave. We cannot help them if we are dead." Hyunwoo looked at Velthar, the same alien who had mocked Jimin, who had called dogs broken and weak. He could leave. It would be easy. It would even be justified. But Hyunwoo knew he would not be able to live with himself if he did. "Help me with this panel," he said to Borum. They worked frantically, pulling away the cover and trying to bypass the damaged circuits. The 2 younger aliens huddled in the corner of the study room, terrified. Velthar stood by the window, his yellow eyes scanning the corridor. Jimin remained alert, positioned between Hyunwoo and the corridor where the strange chiming sound was growing louder. "How much longer?" Velthar asked. 2 minutes, maybe 3, Hyunwoo said, sweat dripping into his eyes. "We do not have 3 minutes." The chiming sound was very close now. The lights began flickering more intensely. Then Hyunwoo saw it. The Shard Wraith came around the corner like a living nightmare. Its body was composed of thousands of crystalline shards that constantly shifted and refracted light. It stood about 8 feet tall on 4 legs that ended in razor-sharp points. Where a head should be was a cluster of larger crystals that pulsed with an inner light. It was beautiful and absolutely terrifying. Behind it, 2 security officers lay motionless on the floor. The Shard Wraith's crystals chimed as it moved, each step creating that horrible discordant sound. It paused at the intersection and Hyunwoo held his breath. Maybe it would not see them. Maybe it would go a different direction. Then its crystal cluster turned directly toward them. Through the refracting light, Hyunwoo could see what might have been eyes, and they were staring right at him. Borum grabbed his arm. "We have to run now." But if they ran, the Shard Wraith would follow, and it would catch them. These creatures were fast, faster than humans. The only reason anyone had ever escaped one was because they had heavy weapons or were in ships that could outfly it. The Shard Wraith took a step toward them. Then another. Inside the study room, the furry alien was crying. The water being's containment suit was shaking. Velthar pressed himself against the window, frozen with fear. His species' predator response had kicked in. When a saurian's instincts told it prey was near, it attacked. When instincts told it a superior predator approached, it froze completely. The Shard Wraith was 10 feet away now, close enough that Hyunwoo could see his own reflection fractured into 1,000 pieces in its crystalline body. Jimin's growl deepened. The dog moved forward, placing himself directly between Hyunwoo and the creature. His lips pulled back, showing teeth. Every muscle in his body was tense. "Jimin, no," Hyunwoo whispered, but his voice shook. The Shard Wraith stopped. Its crystal cluster tilted, studying the dog. Then it made a sound, a high-pitched screech like breaking glass. It was challenge and threat rolled into one. Behind them, the panel suddenly beeped. Borum had managed to bypass the lock. The study room door slid open. "Come on," Borum shouted to the trapped students, but the Shard Wraith was already moving. It lunged forward with incredible speed, crystalline legs carrying it in a blur of refracted light. It was not going for Hyunwoo or Borum. It was going for the younger aliens who were trying to escape the study room, and Jimin was in its way. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. The creature's razor-sharp leg came down. Jimin dodged, his wolf ancestry giving him instincts that matched the predator. He barked, loud and aggressive, drawing the Shard Wraith's attention away from the students. The creature turned its full focus on the dog. Its crystals began to vibrate, creating a sound so painful that Hyunwoo had to cover his ears. Jimin yelped but did not back down. "Run!" Hyunwoo screamed at the others. "All of you, run now!" Velthar and the 2 younger aliens bolted past him. Borum grabbed Hyunwoo's arm, trying to pull him away. But Hyunwoo could not leave Jimin. The Shard Wraith struck. The Shard Wraith's crystalline leg came down like a guillotine. Jimin twisted at the last second, and the razor-sharp point missed his head by inches, gouging a deep line in the metal floor instead. The sound was ear-splitting, metal shrieking against crystal. Jimin lunged forward and bit at the creature's leg. His teeth caught the crystalline surface but could not penetrate it. The shard wraith shrieked that horrible glass-breaking sound and swung another leg at the dog. This time it connected. The impact sent Jimin flying across the corridor. He hit the wall with a sickening thud and fell to the floor. "Jimin!" Hyunwoo screamed. The dog struggled to his feet, shaking his head. Blood dripped from his shoulder where the crystal had cut him. But instead of running, instead of fleeing to safety like every alien companion had done in the test, Jimin charged forward again. He was not attacking to kill. He could not kill this creature. His teeth and claws were useless against its crystalline armor. But Jimin was not trying to win. He was trying to protect. Every time the shard wraith turned toward the fleeing students, Jimin attacked, drawing its attention back to himself. It was the oldest instinct in the dog's DNA, the herding instinct. The guardian instinct, the instinct that said protect the pack no matter the cost, get to safety. Belthar shouted at Hyunwoo from down the corridor. The Saurian had unfrozen from his fear paralysis, though he still kept his distance from the fight. "There is nothing you can do." But Hyunwoo could not leave. He watched in horror as the shard wraith slashed at Jimin again. The dog dodged, but not fast enough. Another cut opened across his side. Jimin yelped, but immediately circled and attacked from a different angle. He was using pack-hunting tactics. The same tactics wolves had used for thousands of generations to bring down prey, larger and more dangerous than themselves. Circle, feint, distract, never stay in one place. Make the prey focus on you so the rest of the pack could strike. But there was no pack. Just one dog against a creature that had evolved on a death world where everything was either predator or prey. The shard wraith was learning Jimin's patterns. Its crystalline body began to pulse with light, and suddenly it moved faster. It caught Jimin mid-dodge, and its leg swept the dog's legs out from under him. Jimin crashed to the ground. Before he could rise, the shard wraith pinned him with one leg, the sharp point pressing into his ribs. Jimin snarled and snapped, twisting his head to try to bite the leg holding him down. Blood pooled beneath him. The creature's crystals vibrated with what might have been satisfaction. It was going to kill him slowly. Something broke inside Hyunwoo. He grabbed a piece of metal debris from the destroyed door panel and charged forward, screaming. It was stupid, suicidal, and completely useless. But he could not watch Jimin die alone. No! Borum tried to grab him, but Hyunwoo was already running. The shard wraith's cluster of head crystals turned toward him. Even pinning Jimin down, it was fast enough to strike at Hyunwoo. A crystalline appendage lashed out, and Hyunwoo barely rolled under it. He swung the metal pipe at the creature's body. It bounced off harmlessly, but it got the creature's attention. For a precious second, the pressure on Jimin eased. The dog wrenched himself free with a howl of pain and limped away from the creature. His back leg was badly injured, barely supporting his weight. Blood matted his fur, but he positioned himself between Hyunwoo and the shard wraith again. "Jimin, no," Hyunwoo said, his voice breaking. "Please, boy, run, just run." Jimin looked back at him, brown eyes filled with pain but also with something else. Something that Velthar and the other aliens had called programming or conditioning or genetic slavery. But Hyunwoo knew what it really was. It was love. Pure, unconditional, absolute love. Jimin turned back to face the shard wraith. He could barely stand. He was bleeding from multiple wounds. He was terrified. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him to run, but he chose to stay. The shard wraith's crystals chimed with what might have been laughter. It took a step forward. Jimin growled, though the sound was weak now. Then Hyunwoo remembered something from his xenobiology class. Shard wraiths were silicon-based. They could phase through certain materials by matching their crystalline frequency, but that same ability made them vulnerable to certain electromagnetic frequencies. Disrupt the frequency and the creature would lose molecular cohesion temporarily. He looked around frantically. The damaged control panel. If he could overload it, create a feedback surge in the electromagnetic systems. "Borum," he shouted. "The panel. Help me overload it." Borum understood immediately. Together they rushed to the destroyed panel. Hyunwoo tore open the back casing, exposing the power conduits. They were still live, sparking with energy. "This is crazy," Borum said. But he was already helping, pulling apart safety protocols and rerouting power. The shard wraith struck at Jimin again. The dog tried to dodge, but his injured leg buckled. The crystalline blade caught him in the ribs, and Jimin's yelp of pain echoed through the corridor. He went down hard, whimpering. "Almost there," Hyunwoo said through gritted teeth. His hands worked frantically, connecting conduits that should never be connected, bypassing every safety feature. The shard wraith stood over Jimin. It raised one leg high, preparing for a killing blow. Hyunwoo slammed his fist on the manual override button. The panel exploded in a shower of sparks. Electricity arced through the corridor, lighting up every metal surface. The electromagnetic pulse radiated outward in a visible wave. The shard wraith shrieked. Its crystalline body began to flicker and phase, losing cohesion. Parts of it became transparent, then solid, then transparent again. It stumbled backward, its legs unable to maintain form. Alarm klaxons began blaring even louder. The explosion had triggered additional security protocols. Heavy blast doors at both ends of the corridor began closing. And from the other direction, Hyunwoo heard the sound he had been praying for. Heavy footsteps. Multiple sets. Security forces in full combat gear. A team of 6 officers rounded the corner, led by Daijung, a human security officer Hyunwoo had met during orientation. They carried specialized containment equipment, weapons designed specifically for crystalline-based life forms. "Everyone clear the area," Daijung shouted. His team opened fire with sonic disruptors. The shard wraith, still destabilized from the electromagnetic pulse, could not phase through the sonic waves. It shrieked and tried to flee, but the containment team surrounded it. Within seconds, they had deployed a quantum lock field. The shard wraith froze mid-motion, trapped in a bubble of altered space-time, but Hyunwoo did not see any of it. He was already running to Jimin. The dog lay motionless on the blood-stained floor. His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow and rapid. Multiple wounds covered his body, some deep enough that Hyunwoo could see bone. "No, no, no," Hyunwoo whispered, kneeling beside him. "Jimin, stay with me. Please stay with me." Jimin's eyes fluttered open. His tail moved slightly, one weak wag. Then his eyes closed again. "Medical team," Daejung shouted into his comm. "We need emergency veterinary support in Corridor 7G immediately." Hyunwoo gathered Jimin carefully into his arms. The dog was heavy, 70 pounds of muscle and bone and blood. Too much blood. It soaked into Hyunwoo's shirt, warm and sticky. "You are so stupid," Hyunwoo said, crying openly now. "Such a stupid, brave, wonderful dog. Why did you not run? Why did you not just run?" But he knew why. He had always known why. It was the same reason dogs had stood beside humans for 40,000 years. The same reason they guarded sleeping children and defended their families and stayed loyal even when hurt or afraid or dying. Because that was what dogs did. That was what they had chosen to do, generation after generation. Not because they were programmed or controlled or enslaved, but because they loved. Medical personnel arrived with a stretcher. They took Jimin from Hyunwoo's arms, and he felt empty without the dog's weight. They rushed away toward the medical bay, and Hyunwoo tried to follow, but his legs would not work properly. He slumped against the wall. Velthar approached slowly. The saurian scales had lost some of their luster, and his yellow eyes were different somehow. Softer. Uncertain. "Your dog," Velthar said quietly. "He could have run. We all saw it. Multiple times he could have escaped." Hyunwoo looked up at him. "Yes, but he stayed. Even when it meant his death, he stayed to protect you." "To protect us?" Velthar's voice cracked slightly. "I was wrong. About dogs. About what you call domestication. This was not programming or conditioning. No amount of training can create that kind of courage. That kind of choice." Hyunwoo said nothing. He just stared at the blood on his hands. Velthar knelt down so they were at eye level. "I do not understand love," he said. "My species does not form bonds like yours does. But I saw something today that I cannot explain any other way. Your companion chose to die for you. Not because he had to, because he wanted to." "He is not dead yet," Hyunwoo said fiercely. "And he better not die, because I have not finished telling him what a good boy he is." The medical bay was a chaos of activity when Hyunwoo burst through the doors. Doctors and nurses from multiple species worked on different patients. The shard wraith attack had injured 17 people, 3 of them critically. But Hyunwoo only cared about one patient. Yuna, the human medical officer, stopped him at the surgery room door. Her uniform was splattered with blood, human and alien both. You cannot go in there. The surgical team is working on him now. How bad is it? Hyunwoo's voice came out as a whisper. Yuna's expression said everything. Bad. Multiple lacerations, fractured ribs, punctured lung, shattered leg bone. He lost a lot of blood. The surgeons are doing everything they can, but what? He is a dog, Hyunwoo. Our medical technology is designed for sentient species. We are adapting equipment meant for aliens to treat Earth animal physiology. It is not impossible, but it is complicated. Can I see him? Not while they are operating. It will be hours. You should go clean up, get some rest. Hyunwoo looked down at himself. He was covered in blood and dirt and burn marks from the electrical explosion, but the thought of leaving, of not being here when Jimin woke up, was unbearable. I will wait, he said, and sat down in the hallway outside the surgery room. Borum found him there an hour later. His roommate brought food and water that Hyunwoo could not eat. They sat together in silence. Eventually, Yuna brought them blankets. Students began arriving as word spread through the station. First just a few, then dozens. They lined the hallway, a strange collection of beings from across the galaxy. Some Hyunwoo recognized from his classes. Others he had never seen before. They sat quietly, waiting for news about the dog who had saved 6 lives. Velthar came with the 2 younger aliens that Jimin had protected. The furry one, whose name was Kira, carried a small bundle of flowers from the station's hydroponics bay. The water being, Tesh, had used his natural abilities to create a small sculpture from ice, shaped like a dog mid-leap. We wanted to bring something, Velthar said awkwardly. In my culture, we honor warriors who show courage in battle. Your Jimin is a warrior. Hyunwoo accepted the gifts with numb hands. Thank you. More students came. They brought offerings, each according to their culture's traditions. Food, flowers, crystals, woven grass, songs sung in alien languages. A memorial for a hero who might not survive. Krishna, the Montid student, approached cautiously. Her compound eyes reflected the harsh medical bay lights. I have been thinking, she said in her clicking voice. About what your dog did. About what it means. What does it mean? Hyunwoo asked tiredly. It means that my people have been wrong. We thought removing emotion and free will from our biodrones made them perfect. But perfection without choice is just machinery. Your dog had a choice. He could have fled. But he chose courage. He chose love. That is not weakness. That is strength we can never engineer. Professor Xanthi arrived near midnight, her 3 eyes heavy with exhaustion. She had been coordinating the station's recovery efforts. The Shard Wraith is secured. The breach has been sealed. We lost 2 security officers, but it could have been much worse. If you and your dog had not delayed the creature, if you had not disrupted it with that electromagnetic pulse, it would have reached the main dormitory sections before security could respond. Hundreds could have died. I just want Jimin to be okay, Hyunwoo said. The surgical team is closing now. They think they have stabilized him, but the next few hours are critical. Dawn came, though there was no sun to rise in space. The station's artificial lighting shifted from night cycle to day cycle. Hyunwoo dozed fitfully, his head on Borum's shoulder. He dreamed of Jimin as a puppy, all oversized paws and floppy ears, chasing butterflies in his family's garden back on Earth. The surgery room door finally opened. A doctor emerged, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms. She looked exhausted. The human who owns the dog? Hyunwoo jumped to his feet. That is me. Is he alive? Barely. We had to use experimental techniques to repair the damage. His recovery will be long and difficult. But dogs are apparently quite resilient. He has a chance. Can I see him? 5 minutes. He is still unconscious and will remain so for at least a day. Do not tire him. The recovery room was quiet and dimly lit. Medical equipment beeped softly, monitoring vital signs. Jimin lay on a raised bed, his body wrapped in bandages and connected to multiple tubes and wires. An oxygen mask covered his nose. One leg was in a cast suspended by cables. He looked so small, vulnerable, nothing like the fierce guardian who had faced down a death-world predator. Hyunwoo pulled a chair beside the bed and carefully took Jimin's paw in his hand. The fur was matted with dried blood despite the doctor's cleaning efforts. The paw pads were rough and warm. Hey boy, Hyunwoo whispered. You really scared me. You are such a good dog. The best dog. But you are also an idiot. You should have run. You should have saved yourself. Jimin's chest rose and fell steadily with each breath. The monitors showed his heartbeat, strong despite everything. Everyone saw what you did. They understand now. Velthar, Krishna, all of them. They understand that you did not stay because you were trained to. You stayed because you love me. Because that is what dogs do. That is what you have always done. Yunwoo laid his head on the edge of the bed, still holding Jimin's paw. Exhaustion and stress crashed over him all at once. He fell asleep to the rhythm of Jimin's breathing and the steady beep of the heart monitor. Days blended together. Yunwoo attended classes when he had to, but spent every other moment in the medical bay. Jimin remained unconscious for 36 hours. When he finally woke, his eyes were clouded with pain and medication, but his tail moved slightly when he saw Hyunwoo, and that was enough. Recovery was slow. Jimin had to relearn how to walk on his injured leg. Hyunwoo was there for every session, encouraging him, celebrating each small victory. The medical staff, initially skeptical about treating a dog, became invested in his recovery. They adjusted his pain medication, modified his physical therapy, and celebrated when he finally managed to walk 10 feet without collapsing. Students visited constantly. The medical bay had to establish visiting hours because too many people wanted to see the hero dog. They brought toys and treats, carefully researched to ensure they were safe for dogs. Velthar came every day, sitting quietly in the corner watching Jimin's progress with something like reverence. 3 weeks after the attack, Professor Zanti called a special assembly. Every student in the academy gathered in the main hall. Hyunwoo sat in the front row, Jimin lying at his feet. The dog still tired easily, but he had insisted on coming, pulling on his leash until Hyunwoo gave in. Professor Zanti stood at the podium. We gather today to honor courage. The Shard Wraith attack could have been catastrophic, but it was not, thanks to the bravery of several individuals. Particularly one individual who, according to our previous understanding, should not have been capable of such bravery. She gestured to Jimin. This dog has taught us something important. We believed that true loyalty required programming, pain compliance, or genetic modification. We believed that an animal capable of making choices would always choose self-preservation over duty. We were wrong. The hall was silent. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on the scarred German shepherd. I am announcing several changes to Academy policy, Professor Zanti continued. First, Earth companion animals are now fully welcomed on this station without restriction. Second, our xenobiology curriculum will include extensive study of Earth's domestication as an example of true symbiotic evolution. Third, we are establishing a memorial in the station gardens to honor not just Jimin, but all companion animals who have shown courage and loyalty throughout galactic history. Applause erupted, in multiple forms. Some species clapped, others clicked mandibles, others created harmonic sounds. Jimin's ears perked up at the noise, and his tail wagged uncertainly. Velthar approached the podium. May I speak? Professor Zanti nodded. The Saurian faced the crowd. I mocked Earth dogs. I called them broken predators, slaves, genetic failures. I was wrong, and my wrongness nearly cost lives. Jimin had multiple opportunities to flee. Every instinct, every survival mechanism in his body told him to run. But he chose to stay. He chose to fight. He chose to protect not just his human, but all of us. That is not programming. That is not conditioning. That is courage born from love. He turned to Hyunwoo. My people breed warriors through pain and dominance. We thought this made them strong. But I watched a dog who was bred through love show more courage than any warrior I have ever known. Humanity has mastered something we never understood. You have created partnership where we only created submission. Kira, the young furry alien Jimin had saved, stood up. Her voice was small but clear. I was certain I would die. The Shard Wraith was coming for me, but Jimin put himself between us. He could not win. He knew he could not win, but he fought anyway because that was what we needed him to do. I will never forget that. More students stood, sharing their stories. How seeing Jimin's loyalty had changed their understanding. How they were questioning their own species' relationship with animals. How they wanted to learn from Earth's example.